Okay, so today I'm going to talk about rules, the rules of bodybuilding. Certain rules that we sort of come across when we look in books and we look at, we speak to people. We always hear common things, like you should train for an hour, no more than an hour. Train each body part once a week. Get a good 8 hours sleep, eat every 2 to 3 hours. These are common things that you hear. And when I started training, that's what I did. And definitely it works. I mean, like, if you eat every 2 to 3 hours and you train hard and you train each body part once a week, you train for about an hour, the chances are you are going to get some gains. But as time goes on, obviously it's very easy to get set in your ways and people stop growing. And I think when you stop growing, you need to be able to change, and be willing to try new things. And I wasn't really. I was set in my ways. I was regimental that I was doing, everything correctly. And I think it set me back a bit. You mustn't be scared to sort of like try new things. I mean, Dorian Yates, when he trained, like I said, he trained 3 to 4 times a week, 45 minutes, real high intensity. So I thought, look, I'll give this a go. And yes, at first it was working, but I felt like, for me personally, my body just could not take that kind of punishment, and I was getting injuries, and it was a bit too much for me. Then I tried like going really, really heavy one week, going medium weight on the second week and doing reps on the third, and then going back to going heavy again. That seemed to work quite well. But you must be prepared to try new things. If you're not growing, then you're not going to grow next week, next month, next year. So recently I've tried something completely different because I'm at the age I'm at. I thought, I don't really care anymore. I'm just going to train. I'm enjoying myself. Many times in the past, I would train chest, and 3 days later, me training part, I'd say, God, did you fancy training chest? I say, I can't because I trained it 3 days ago. As where now I'm just going to train it. If I fancy training it, I'm going to train it. And it seems to be working. Frequency seems to be working for me now. So the big question is, how much is overtraining? But I think overtraining is if you're growing, if you're feeling good, if you're still sleeping and you're getting gains, then obviously you're not overtraining. But if you start getting weaker and you can't sleep and you're feeling lethargic, then obviously that's a sign of overtraining. So you've got to listen to your body. And I think that's very, very important. So, if you're feeling good and you're getting strong, keep doing what you're doing. So, although at the moment, when I tell people, they say, Christ, you're training a lot. It has worked and it is working. Now, if it sort of stops where I feel like I'm getting very tired and I feel like I'm going the wrong way and I start getting weaker, then I'll obviously pull away. But at the moment, it's working. And I think for me, I tend to grow my best when I'm at my happiest. I think mental state, which we've talked about in the past, is very, very important. A lot of the time I've been training because things are not going on very well in my life, so I take it out on the weights, but I don't tend to really grow in that type of state. I tend to grow when I'm happy. When you're happy and you're enjoying your training and you can't wait to get in the gym to train, you tend to make better gains. And at the moment, I just really enjoying the training. And I'm not actually having set days of set body parts. I've got weights around me all the time. So if I fancy training biceps, I'll train biceps. If I fancy training chest, I'll train chest. And I train it as frequently as I feel like. If I'm sitting there and I fancy training, I go into the garage and I train. And it seems to be working really, really well, not having set times. Because I think the problem with it is that, unfortunately, most of us have to have set times. We go to work and then we have our slot where we need to train. And in some cases, we could be really, really tired and it might not be the best time to train, but we have to because that's the only time we've got. So, for instance, you've been working all day, it's 6 o'clock and everyone goes to the gym. And you might think, I'm tired today. When really, if you could have had a nap and then you could have woke up and then maybe trained a bit later, it would have been more beneficial, but we're not all in a position to do that. Now, recently, I've been very fortunate to be able to do that. I can train when I want, so I train when my body's telling me it wants to train. So if I'm feeling tired, I'm not going to go and train. And then, I might have a little nap, or I'll cook my food, or I'll do whatever, I'll do some little jobs. And then I feel like, I feel good. I feel like I want to train now. So when I do that, I take my pre-workout and bang, I train. And it's always been a good training session. And that's a very fortunate position to be in. Sometimes I might train once a day, sometimes I might train 2, or even in some cases 3. I'm just training and going by what my body's telling me. If I want to train, I train. Now, I think this is the best way, but it's just not possible for a lot of people. Even with the food, it can be very difficult when you're out working all the time to stick with every 2 to 3 hours. People struggle because they don't get that many breaks. Bodybuilding is a 24-hour sport, and it's a case of just eating, sleeping, and training, eating, sleeping, training, repeating that over and over again. My friend who won the Mr. Universe was training 3 times daily. He got absolutely massive, won the Mr. Universe. Yes, we could all say he trained too often, but he looked fantastic and he won. So who are we to say he was doing it incorrectly? So I think what we must do is sometimes we need to make changes. And like I said, at the moment, I had nothing to lose, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to train as and when I want and just enjoy my training. And it is working. So I think for a beginner, definitely start off with the, 1 hour training is about right. We talk about reps, we talk about the 10 rep range. We talk about, like I said, eating every 2 to 3 hours. All these things, the rules that you sort of tend to hear in bodybuilding. But sometimes you need to break them rules and you just need to try something new because everyone is different. And, what worked for me maybe back then won't work for me now. And I definitely think as I'm older, I think the frequency is working better for me. I don't think I can, although I do try, the intensity of the workouts, I try to generate as much intensity as I can, but I think as you get older it gets hard because you tend to get injured more, etc. So for me, I need the workouts to be a bit longer. I need more time to warm up. The workouts have sort of changed. So I'm really training to how I feel. If I feel good, then I'll put the weight on the bar, I'll go heavy. If I'm not feeling so good and I've got a few niggles, then I'll do reps. So sort of really, I think I'm just listening to the body and I'm more in tune with the body than I've ever been before. And I think this is the reason why I'm getting better results now. I think people are just doing it for the sake of doing it. They're in a state of they're just doing it because they're regimented, which is good in bodybuilding. But sometimes it can be a bad thing, because it's no good being regimented if you're not growing. You need to be able to make a change. I see people, and we've talked about in the past, that do cardio regardless whether they need it or not. In their head they have to do it, and they get obsessed with it, and they're doing cardio every morning when their body doesn't really need to be doing it. So I think doing it when you need to do it, listening to your body, that's important. So as far as overtraining is concerned, I've pushed it. I'm training the legs 3 times a week now, and people say that's too much, but the legs are responding. I'm recovering from it, and they're growing, and it's not easy to get them to grow at 47. So I think that I'm going to keep doing what's working. I think it's very easy for people to make the excuse, overtraining. No, I don't want to do too much because I'm overtrained. I think it's quite difficult to actually overtrain, but I suppose it depends on your genetics. It depends on what you're doing. If you're not working and you're just resting the rest of the time, I think you can train more. If you've got a physical job where obviously you're constantly, a heavy manual, labour job, it's going to be harder. There is more of a chance of being overtrained. So I think it's just what your body can cope with, and you just got to listen to it. So if you're feeling good, then definitely keep doing what you're doing. And if it's not working, you're not growing, you're not feeling good, then you need to make the change. So, sometimes, like I said, you need to throw the rule book out and try different things. And that's certainly what I've been doing. I've been trying different foods. I've been trying different frequency of training a lot, a lot more. And even if I'm training legs, and I'm enjoying it, 2 hours have gone by and I'll keep training. People say, oh, an hour's enough. I'm just doing what I feel at the time, that I want to do. And it's definitely working. So it's worth sometimes having a little look at that. Don't get set in your ways too much. Be prepared to make them changes. Do whatever's necessary and listen to your body. And if it's growing, keep doing it. If it's not, you need to get rid of it and try something new. So good luck, and hopefully it's certainly not an easy time for everyone at the moment. Because obviously with the gyms being shut. But, you've got to make the best of what you've got. If you've got one pair of dumbbells, you've got one pair of dumbbells. If you haven't got anything, you have to do, push-ups, sit-ups, body weight. You've got to do whatever you can. But hopefully this won't last for long, and we'll speak to you soon.